Salutations, digital world. Welcome to another glorious day, another glorious episode of Spliced In Later. On today, June 30, officially halfway through the year of 2020. In many ways, it's felt like it's gone by remarkably quick, and in other cases, it feels like it's been the longest year of our lives. There's so much going on, so much craziness. Who'd have thought we'd make it this far? I certainly didn't. Don't worry, we've got another 6 months. I'm sure there's plenty more that 2020 can give us. But for now, let's try and turn our brains off and focus on something more positive, like some movies and some TV shows. How about a little bit of both? That's what we're bringing for you today on this special episode of Spliced In Later. I say special, but it's pretty much standard. Nothing particularly special about it. I guess the one special thing is that I don't feel great. So this episode probably won't go too long. We'll have a quick chat. I'll say some stuff like I normally do, and then I will retire to put my head in my pillow because today is no bueno. But pushing forward, I hope you're all well out there, whatever the case may be. Today, what I wanted to do is talk a little bit about a trend that's sort of on television at the moment. It's happening more and more, and my experiences with it. What I mean specifically is taking a established movie that has been made either in the 80s or in the past or however far back you want to go, even in some cases as recent as 4 years, and adapting it into a TV show. Is this a good idea? Is it a bad idea? How successful is it? How successful isn't it? It can go either way. I think there is a specific sweet spot that has been achieved by a product recently, and we're going to talk about that moving forward. But first, I want to unpack the parameters for you because it is a hot topic. Around 2016, I think, 2016 to 2018, I started to notice that a lot of new pilots being pitched to network television or even to streaming services were pilots for a TV show based on an established movie. Now, at the moment, I am watching the TV series Snowpiercer. And if you will recall, not too long ago, before everything went hullabaloo across the world, I did review Snowpiercer for you all, specifically because it was directed by Bong Joon-ho, who directed Parasite, but also because I really, really, really love the movie Snowpiercer. And it's only recently been added to my collection. I've only known about it for a few years, but it's been a great few years. I've watched it over and over. I cannot recommend it enough. I know some people have listened and watched it, and their responses have varied from, that's one of the coolest movies I've ever seen, to, that was very strange. I didn't really understand what was going on, but it was a unique film experience. So positives all around. Snowpiercer is great. If you haven't checked out Snowpiercer, the movie, you should. So at the moment now, Snowpiercer, the TV show is on. Somebody has taken the movie, and also I believe there's a book that it's based on, I'm not 100% sure, and said, let's make a whole bunch of seasons of it. Let's immediately commit to 2 seasons, and let's bank on the popularity of Snowpiercer to get people to watch it. Now, this show's been through huge development hell. I was curious when I started watching it that everything I'd heard about it wasn't actually happening, and information about established characters had turned into completely different characters with what I was seeing on the TV. So I had to look into it. Snowpiercer has gone through extensive rewrites. 2 or 3 pilots, I believe, have been shot. Whole complete flip of main cast, setting, storylines. It's been quite the trials and tribulations for the people making Snowpiercer. I'm honestly surprised it really ever hit our screens. But it did. It made it. And like most things that I watch, if I've seen the movie, I'm going to check out the TV show. If I see that a sequel to a movie's coming out, I'm going to watch the sequel, regardless on whether the first movie was good, whether I have seen if the trailers are good or not. I just check it out, because it's, as I've said before, it's always good to make your mind up about things, given the material in front of you. You can't really say, I don't like that if you haven't seen it. But that's a whole other episode. Go back and have a look at me rabbiting on about that stuff before. It's a good listen. It's a good listen. My overall opinion of Snowpiercer, the TV show at the moment, is that it's quite good. It is smartly not just doing the movie again, or at least if it is doing the movie, it's taking a much longer route to the eventual conclusion. You get a lot more information about the people on the train. As I mentioned in my Snowpiercer review, it was basically the people at the front and the people at the back. And the people at the back wanted to revolt against the people at the front, and carnage ensues. With a TV show, you realize that there's a lot more on the train besides back and front. There's first class, second class, third class. You've got people working on the train. You've got children being brought up on the train, brothels, hospitals, bowling alleys. There's a whole ecosystem operating on this train. The movie really showed us it all collapse once the revolution began, but with the TV show, you get to see how this operates, and there's mysteries and murders and different characters associated with different parts of the train. Very heroes sort of thing. As I mentioned last week, you get established characters in different settings, so you get a little bit of a different story every time you check in with them, and every now and then they interact with each other. It's an intriguing, interesting concept. It's not 100% perfect. There are some episodes that are better than others, but I'm intrigued. I think overall this is a genuinely successful adaptation, and I'm interested to see how this season concludes, and also season 2, because it's already been renewed for a second season. That's another thing I like, is the general commitment. It's hard for me to want to watch a show that someone recommends if there aren't more than one season to it. I like that a couple seasons are established before I can get into something, unless it's something like Snowpiercer, where I have no choice but to watch it because I watched the movie. I mean, everybody has a choice, except for me. Slave to movies and TVs, and boy, it's a good life. But I've been talking to friends about Snowpiercer, and there's been mixed feelings about it. Some people are interested in watching it, but just haven't found the energy to do it. Others feel they don't need to, for a variety of reasons, mainly either. They really, really like the movie Snowpiercer, so they don't feel the need to watch the TV show because they've got the movie. Completely understandable. Or they didn't like the movie, therefore they don't want to give the TV show a try, because if they didn't like the movie, why would they like the TV show? Again, completely understandable. And it's that sort of instance why I think that as much as I'm enjoying Snowpiercer and I'm excited to get into season 2, I feel like these TV show adaptions don't last long because they don't have that commitment to them. They don't have that interest, that enthusiasm that you get from the movie, because case in point, people have seen the movie. They don't need to see the TV show. Moving on from Snowpiercer, my final thoughts on that being, give it a watch if you want, but it's okay if you don't. If it gets really, really good, I'll come back and let you know. How about that? But we've got a lot of hit and misses where it comes to the TV shows based on films, mainly misses. It's hard to find that nice sweet spot where it goes, yes, this is good. You either have Minority Report, the TV series, which I can guarantee you all my listeners do not know what that is, and that's fair enough. You may know that Minority was a movie that came out starring Tom Cruise, a very interesting sci-fi movie about predicting crimes before they happen, thereby arresting the people before they commit the crime. The whole, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, and then standard action affair where Tom Cruise sees himself supposedly commit a murder. He's being hunted by the police, and he's got to prove that he's innocent, even though he didn't actually do anything, but he might do something in the future. Very interesting concept, very cool movie. Definitely recommend it. Minority Report, the TV series, establishes that that movie happened, and it's a sequel to the movie. So you take some characters from the movie, not Tom Cruise, and then you learn a bit more about them. The issue with Minority Report being that we got all the answers we got in the movie, so we don't really need to check in with these characters anymore. We don't need to see what they're doing because all their problems have been solved. Minority Report went from an ordered 13 episodes to 10 episodes and then disappeared from the face of the earth. On another example, you've got Lethal Weapon, which was a reimagining of the old movies Lethal Weapon 2, Lethal Weapon 3, Lethal Weapon 4, Mel Gibson and Danny Glover. Takes their characters of Riggs and Murtaugh, recasts them, in this case, Clayne Crawford playing Riggs and Damon Wayans playing Murtaugh. Takes that relationship between the two, but puts them in a brand new police procedural setting. So they're still the buddy cops that constantly bicker and go on action adventures, but it's a standard police drama affair where they solve the crime of the week. Lethal Weapon was sort of successful because the actors playing the characters were generally very likable. But I don't know whether it was the pressure of them being more popular than they realized. I don't know what was going on behind the scenes, but that show crashed and burned also after 3 seasons, specifically because the two actors who played the main characters who were pulled from Lethal Weapon were either removed from the show or wanted to leave the show. Thereby, you take the hook that people were watching the Lethal Weapon TV series for. They wanted to see Riggs and Murtaugh. Without Riggs and Murtaugh, why do people want to watch Lethal Weapon? Because it's just another police show. Lethal Weapon is now, of course, concluded. And let's not even talk about, there's a Rush Hour TV adaptation, there's a Limitless TV adaptation, there's a whole bunch, and they're usually the same thing. They're either trying to continue the story of the movie, or they're reimagining the characters in a new setting, or they twist the concept, but overall these things tend to sort of shine very brightly very quickly and then peter out. However, there is a bright side to this whole conversation. I don't want to knock all adaptions of movies onto TV shows, because depending on what your likes are, what you think is interesting, you might find them entertaining. There might be people out there who enjoyed Lethal Weapon even without Riggs. They might have enjoyed Minority Report even though there wasn't too much mystery in it because all their questions had already been solved. There may even be people listening who watching Snowpiercer and have no idea why I think people might not like it. So whatever your personal opinions and beliefs are, that's fine. As long as you enjoy something, all the more power to you. But I want to push the positivity here on this channel, so I want to show to you what I think the true sweet spot positive adaptation from a movie to a TV show is. I want to recommend it to you. I want to tell you where you can get it. And for the people who are listening to me that have told me they don't want to check out this TV show, this is not a direct attack on you. But if you feel like maybe I am, that's also not so bad. Maybe check out the show or don't. But don't take any of this personally. None of this is personal at all. It's just expressing my love for a show, not getting the response I want from the people I meet in everyday life, and hoping that my lovely, beautiful Spliced In Later listeners might heed my recommendation where others have not. And again, if you clicked on this episode, you know the basis of this talk, so you might figure out what the TV show is. But first, in order to get to the TV show, I want to talk to you about a little movie in 1984 called The Karate Kid. I love The Karate Kid. I've loved it since I was young, when I first watched it with my brothers. I've loved all the sequels that have come out after it. I love the world. I loved it so much that I tried to take up karate when I was a kid. I didn't stick with it because it wasn't very good. I thought you could just be good at karate immediately, and apparently it takes years and years of practice. So I didn't have time for that, so I gave up pretty quickly. I think it was my first attempt at getting a color belt where I failed spectacularly, and I went, okay, I'm done with that. What sport do I want to play next? Maybe some basketball. It was a bit like that as a kid. I was all over the place. But it was all inspired from The Karate Kid. Now, most people have seen The Karate Kid, but there might be some people who haven't. I'll give you a very brief rundown of it without spoiling it, because it's worth experiencing if you don't know anything about it. The Karate Kid stars Ralph Macchio as Daniel, who moves to a new town with his mother. So he's alone, he's outcast, he hasn't got a lot of friends, he feels dejected. But he does meet this girl called Allie, played by Elizabeth Shue. They hit it off. Unfortunately, Allie has an ex-boyfriend, Johnny Lawrence, played by William Zabka, who is rough, violent, volatile, because he goes to a karate dojo called Cobra Kai, where his sensei is a violent masochist who believes in no mercy, strike hard, strike first, no mercy. So he's not too happy about Daniel hanging out with his ex-girlfriend, so he beats him up, and then he and his cronies continue to torture Daniel for a good part of his school year, until Daniel meets a lovely old man called Mr. Miyagi, played by the late Pat Morita, who takes him under his wing, teaches him how to do karate the correct way, specifically that it's for self-defense. It's to make yourself feel better, to channel your inner peace. Helps him to realign himself at school, to feel better about himself, to win the girl at the end as well. The relationship between Mr. Miyagi and Daniel is so lovely. It's like a grandpa and a grandson. He's showing him all these cool karate moves that are originally hidden behind just household chores, so it's fun to see when he whips them out eventually. And then, of course, in true 80s karate-style movie, there's a big karate tournament at the end where Daniel gets to show off his skills. And I don't want to spoil the movie, but in a movie like this, you could probably guess that things work out well for him and not so well for Johnny and the Cobra Kai. But watch the movie for yourself and decide. Karate Kid is a lovely, cherished 80s film. The sequels are also good, not as good. The Karate Kid Part 2 is a lot of fun because it takes the story to Japan. We learn more about Mr. Miyagi's past. Daniel gets into some more life and death fights rather than just fighting for rights to be cool at school. The Karate Kid Part 3, things were starting to get a bit stale at this point, but basically the chemistry between Ralph Macchio and Pat Morita is so good that you can let go all of the standard cliche 80s drama affair and just enjoy the two of them hanging out, doing some kata on a hillside top. The next Karate Kid we're not going to talk about, except that it did introduce Hilary Swank to the world, and Hilary Swank is a great actress, so thanks for that. Otherwise, no thank you. Moving on. Karate Kid even got a reboot in 2010 with the lovable Jackie Chan. As I said, I love Jackie Chan. I love Jackie Chan movies. Jaden Smith, Will Smith's son, plays the Karate Kid of the film. It really should have been called the Kung Fu Kid, and it is basically just the Karate Kid again, but with different characters in a different setting. But it's still got that same warmth, charm, fun, kung fu moves. Jackie Chan is great. Unlike other remakes, it feels very good to watch and enjoyable. So I would recommend the remake. Absolutely, 100%. But apart from that, I thought I was done with the Karate Kid world. I moved on. And when I say I moved on, I just rewatched the first couple movies over and over again. And then I heard that Ralph Macchio and William Zabka, who played Daniel and Johnny, were getting together for YouTube to make their own series called Cobra Kai. So it's going to be on YouTube Original, which means you have to sign up and pay money to YouTube to see this content. And I immediately went, oh good, a TV show adaptation from the movies. I don't care. I will watch the first episode because it's free on YouTube, but I expect it to be terrible, and then I will move on. Well, I am happy to say Cobra Kai is one of the most shockingly good things I have ever seen, and I can't recommend it enough if you are a fan of the Karate Kid movies. If you enjoyed the Karate Kid movies even a little bit, you'll enjoy Cobra Kai. If you miss the 80s, it's good 80s nostalgia. But furthermore, it is just a very good story on its own. You don't even have to have seen the Karate Kid movies to appreciate Cobra Kai, which I think is something that this TV show series has that the others mentioned before previously did not. It helps if you know the original content. It does not rely on you having seen it to get any sort of enjoyment out of it. The plot is not straightforward. It's quite interesting. Originally, it sets out so it's about Johnny, William Zabka, whose life has taken quite a bad turn since the Karate Kid movies. He's bitter, resentful, and he eventually decides he wants to turn his life around and reopen the Cobra Kai dojo. But his Cobra Kai is going to be different to the violentness of the original one. But no one gives him a chance. Everyone expects the worst of him. Specifically, Ralph Macchio's Daniel, who, on the opposite to Johnny, is just doing great. He's got a wife, a family. He's very rich as a car salesman. But he's forgotten a lot of Mr. Miyagi's teachings as a result. He's a bit more headstrong. He's quick to anger. He has also in a pretty bad place compared to how he should be if Mr. Miyagi was still around to teach him the correct way. As you see Johnny open the Cobra Kai, he takes in some students who are having their own troubles, and he sort of becomes a mentor to them, but he's still got that old violent tendencies to him, so he's trying to work out a nice balance between the two. On the other end, once Daniel realizes that Cobra Kai is coming back, he wants to stop it, and he eventually falls back into the old Mr. Miyagi teachings of peace and tranquility, but he applies them in not so good ways. Everybody's families get caught up in it, sons, daughters, kids from high school. And that's really, the first 2 seasons is just these dojos competing against each other. Every now and then Daniel and Johnny find some common ground, and then something happens to split them apart. Families get intertwined, and it's just gripping television for a show that's on YouTube. Each episode is only about 22 to 27 minutes, depending which episode it is in the series. The season finales are generally a little bit longer, but not by much. Cobra Kai is a sleeper hit. I think even the people who made Cobra Kai didn't expect it to be as popular as it is. Immediately got a season 2 on YouTube, and season 3 the demand for it was so intense that I don't think YouTube could handle the budget that would have been needed to accomplish what they could do, because Cobra Kai is now moving to Netflix. That's right. 99% of you, I'm sure, do not pay for YouTube, but I'm pretty sure most of you pay for Netflix. Soon you will be able to catch the first 2 seasons of Cobra Kai on there, and season 3 will eventually get here, I assume, one day, once the whole pandemic thing eventually does start to wind down, hopefully soon. I cannot recommend Cobra Kai enough to you all, and I think it really hammers home my whole point of this episode, which I started way back, 20 minutes ago with Snowpiercer. I can watch Cobra Kai without watching The Karate Kid first, even as preparation. I can watch season 2 of Cobra Kai and just have fun with it. With something like Minority Report, when I watch it, I have to remember the names of the characters in it, and I don't really remember them that well. But The Karate Kid, it plays the music from the episodes, it shows flashbacks from the episodes, it works it organically into the episodes, so it doesn't feel jarring. But if you have seen the movies, you get a little feeling of joy every time you see it. So the moral of our episode here is TV shows based on movies generally not successful. Not because they're bad or anything. It's a hard thing to attract a fan base to something that is either so cherished or is disliked by other people. The example of Snowpiercer being, I really love the movie, so I don't need to watch the show because I've already got it, or I didn't like the movie, so why would I watch the show? With something like Cobra Kai, though, you can prove that you can be respectful and honor the source material that you're based on, but you can forge ahead and make your own story with your own direction. For the people who enjoy the original content, you can reward them for watching with their references to the past. For people who've never seen The Karate Kid, they can still get into Cobra Kai and have a great time with it without feeling like they're missing anything. Have a look out there. I think you'll find that there are a lot of TV shows that had a very short lifespan that were based on movies. Did you know there was a TV show based on Ferris Bueller's Day Off? There absolutely was. There are so many. Have a look out there. See if you can find anything. See, for fun, how long they lasted on TV. Did they make it a few seasons? Did they not make it past the pilot episode? Or were they as lucky and as smart as Cobra Kai and managed to forge ahead and create their own identity and their own substantial amount of television episodes? I'm intrigued to see. If you want to let me know, you can comment on YouTube. If you don't want to do that, that's also fine. I'll have a look myself. I'm sure I'll find something. But for now, I hope you've enjoyed listening to me. I hope if you like The Karate Kid and you didn't know Cobra Kai existed, you might want to check it out. I hope you might be intrigued to check it out regardless of your stance on The Karate Kid. I would also check out that Snowpiercer TV show if you want to. But at the end of the day, do what you want to do. If you don't want to watch any of this, that's fine. I can't make you. But I appreciate that you've listened to me say my piece anyway. I'm going to watch Cobra Kai, so I'm happy regardless. Thank you very much. I'll see you again next week for another tantalizing episode of Spliced In Later. Who knows what we'll talk about? I sure don't, but we'll find out next week. Until then, love and appreciate you as always. You've been Spliced In Later. Adios, muchachos. I'll catch you next time.